James, let's now talk about audio. I had a pretty bad experience actually when recording you at New Covent Garden Market. Plugged my radio mics into the camera, got what I thought was good audio, was listening to it, the levels were up full on the camera, and when we got the stuff back it just wasn't quite good enough signal to noise. So the valuable lesson there is that the inbuilt preamps for audio in this camera aren't very good. Sorry BlackMagic, they're just not very good. It's something I think they've really overlooked. What's your experience been like with audio, and what have you found to be the workarounds?
Well, I feel a little bit like I'm working with a hand tied behind my back at the moment with the camera because I haven't got any on-screen audio meters. And it's just something which I'm so used to as a given to have on any of the other cameras. I mean, to be fair, the 5D Mark II, certainly terrible for audio. Always been terrible for audio.
Yeah.
It's been greatly improved, the 5D Mark III, and Canon have learned a lot by that. And you know, we know that BlackMagic, we're sure, are going to add audio meters and things into the camera. That's only a matter of time. But that's something that I long to see in it, because I had a similar experience recording an interview where I used an external EVF for just so I could basically use the metering on that EVF, the audio metering, as a kind of a reassurance that I was getting a good signal into the camera. But even then, I was finding the preamps, they were noisy, basically. I think that was the problem. So as it stands, I think the camera has really been designed, clearly it's been designed image first for cinema, and in cinema a lot of the times you'll be dual recording your audio.
Course.
That's the point. It's, you know, it's great. We have audio on the camera, we've got headphones we can monitor. At some point, you know, for sure we'll have audio meters in the camera, and that will go a long way to making the audio better, at least in a monitoring situation. But right now, I think if you're going to be very serious about sound with the camera, then you need to be looking at a preamp solution to use with it.
Yeah, well, I've been looking at two. This one here is the DXA BMD from BeachTech. Now, this is a very, very nice, solid solution. BeachTech have been around a long time, ever since the early days of, you know, like the Sony A1E and other Sony cameras that needed XLR inputs. They've been making solutions. It's a very well engineered piece of gear. The pots are really nice. They've got little sort of dimples on them so you kind of feel where you are. Everything's very solid. They've got a nice digital meter on here. However, I have found that when testing alongside the Juice Link just has more oomph in the preamps. I've found that when you're working with low impedance microphones, you have to turn these right up and you're still not getting quite as much level as you'd like. The other thing I've noticed is that when you're using a preamp like this, you set your internal audio levels. I'll put this, turn this on, because it's a good thing to illustrate. In your menu here, you go down to your audio section, and your input level you set to between 25 and 30%. That's all you need to get the optimum signal to noise ratio from the preamps. The other thing to note here is I've got these, I was looking for a solution with right angled balanced connectors, because I like the idea of taking the jacks, making sure they're plugged in at a right angle, and streamlining the whole side of the camera. In fact, my idea would be 2 right angle jacks. I've not been able to find balanced right angled TRS jacks yet. I started by buying patch leads for effects pedals, for guitar effects pedals, because they would give me 2 right angle connectors and they would keep that side of the camera nice and streamlined. But what I discovered with the BeachTech is that the pots started to click when I was using them. I spoke to BeachTech, they said no, you've got to use balanced cables. So if you're doing anything with this camera, you've got to use this TRS style balanced cable, and I'll show you how that differs from a regular 1/4 inch jack. It has a secondary level of connection which gives you that balanced signal as opposed to unbalanced. So that's one thing to bear in mind. I have to say that at this stage my preference purely for audio output is the Juice-Link box, and I can't show you that because we're actually using it on our master camera here to capture our audio today. But here it is on location. It's a more compact box. It has some level indicators on it. They're not, I think, quite as refined as the digital meter here on the Beach Tech. But, you know, to be fair, both solutions are good. They're the only solutions I've come across so far for on camera. You know, you can certainly plug external mixers into the camera. But the other issue is the calibration. It's knowing where your level is set to. So what I do is I use my Marshall monitor with the built-in audio meters, and I set the camera up so that I can see my meters on the screen, and I tend not to use the meters here because all you're doing here is metering the audio level coming into the mixer. You're not then able to necessarily meter what's going into the camera. So that's a kind of gotcha you got to be aware of. Good headphones as always. These are my trusty, if anyone's watched my tutorials before, these are the same pair of Sennheiser HD25s that I've had since about 2001, and they are pretty beaten up, but I just trust them implicitly. So a good way of monitoring audio. And then another just quick gotcha, I was recording this band on Saturday night, and I was using actually the Juice-Link, and I was phantom powering the mic from the preamp, and I went through an entire 9-volt battery in 45 minutes of on-set work because I was powering the microphone. So my new solution is to use this Rode NTG2, which has power built in, so I'm not taking power from the mixer. And that just, you know, attaches onto the camera somehow, and I've got that method of recording audio. James, you've used a slightly different system, but same kind of principle.
Completely. I've been using a Sennheiser MKE600, and I chose this mic really because of the size, and obviously because it was also a powered mic. That's the main thing. If you want to just work minus a external kind of preamp box, then you need to have a powered
exactly
mic.
The same as this. This actually probably is the equivalent mic, because similarly, and actually let's compare the sizes here. It's, yeah, the Rode's slightly bigger, but there isn't a great deal in it.
And my solution here, using some Royco accessories, is basically to keep the camera very small and just mount it with a suspension cradle, just like this, onto the top. And then you've got a nice solution just for capturing nice ambient sounds if you need to, or even, you know, this could be a fairly good dock kind of run and gun solution. And just again, you need to be finding good connectivity to be able to go in balance from XLR into 1/4-inch jack.
But you still run into similar problems with the internal preamps on the camera, don't you?
You do. You need to be aware that you should really be monitoring the audio, especially as you're not seeing it. And one of the things I did find working in this way when I was recording live music was that I was monitoring the audio, but as soon as the input overloaded on the microphone, then basically the mic on the camera would flick from mic to line input. I guess this is maybe the camera's own way of protecting its circuitry, or its own way of knowing that the input is too high. But because I had no meters on screen, unless I was checking on headphones, what would happen was obviously the audio signal would just cut out. So this was kind of some cause of distress at the time when I was shooting. So there's certain ways that I'm having to learn to work with the audio on it. And I think my preference, until there's definitely metering in the camera, and probably even still to counter some of the audio preamps within the camera itself, would be to use an external box, either like the Juice-Link which we're using, or the Beach Tech box which we're using here.
One of the things I like about the Juice-Link box is that it has a lot of fine control. So you can phantom power microphones, you can boost the audio signal in one of 3 channels, and you're able to just have fine control over bass roll off. So it's a far more advanced mixer. It's much more compact, and actually I find it just overall to be delivering a slightly better quality audio than the BeachTech. Good audio protocol is, I think, often overlooked by filmmakers. I think it's always like, we'll fix it in post, and it's certainly true. You can build a great audio environment in post, but I think sound mixers around the world would be really grateful if we just put that little bit of extra effort into capturing great sound at the time. Rather than spending their time fixing audio, they can actually be polishing it and adding the ambience and great effects to our pre-recorded pieces. The audio side of it, it's pretty simple. You know, the inbuilt preamps aren't all that great, but I don't mind that. You know, as we said before, there are aspects of this camera which are a bit lame, but it's an image sensing camera before it is an audio recording camera, and it certainly does audio a lot better than a DSLR.
Oh, completely. And you would still have no hesitation of using this camera on any film shoot or any high-end commercial, because for most of those situations,
and these mixers are like $300 or $400. You know, they're not a huge amount of money. And yes, some people are going to complain, saying, well, why didn't they just put it in the camera and charge more? But they were very keen to get this camera down to a $3,000 price point. In order to do that, you have to leave some stuff out, and maybe putting preamps in the camera and XLRs would have put the price up $500. You just don't know.
It would have certainly
would it
made
have been
bigger.
as attractive? I don't know. I think this way, I'm a big fan of the modularity. I'm a big fan of being able to choose what accessories you put on the camera.